You may be wondering why commissions, otherwise known as brokerage fees, is among the elements that can influence the selling of your home. Think of it this way. You price your home for the market. The market is comprised of buyers. You set your brokerage fee for the real estate brokers. You want to attract them to try to sell your home. That's how they make a living to support themselves and their families. When it comes to pricing your home, obviously the lower the price is, the more attractive it is to potential buyers. If you price it too low, you are leaving money on the table that is rightfully yours. Ideally, what you're trying to do with price is to price it for the current market, whereby a buyer pays you a price that leaves nothing on the table. In other words, you don't want to either overprice or underprice your home. The same goes for brokerage fees. The typical full-time active real estate broker will only sell between approximately 8 and 12 homes per year. When choosing homes to show their clients, they usually do look at the commission rate. You don't want to detract brokers from wanting to sell your home, but you don't want to pay more than you need to either. If you set your fee at the average your competition is paying, you are in a neutral position. You don't necessarily have an advantage or disadvantage. If you price it under average, you are in the disadvantage range where you are potentially losing some showings. If you position your brokerage fee above average, you will cause more excitement among some brokers, and potentially they'll be trying harder to sell your home, which could result in more and better showings. However, if you go above the typical high end of the range, that becomes a point of diminishing returns, and you are paying fees unnecessarily. Keep in mind that brokerage fees are always negotiable. I actually like to let the homeowner decide how aggressive they want to be on the commission. Should they choose to offer a below par rate, I simply won't take the listing. It's not in the best interest of the homeowner or myself to try and sell a home that starts out from day one with a disadvantage. By looking at the commissions offered by the competition in your particular price range, you will get a good idea as to what those are. You can ask the broker you're interviewing to show you the commission rates offered on the listing sheets from the multiple listing service. With rare exception, what you will want to do is double what is shown. That's because whatever you agree to pay your broker is divided between that broker and the broker who actually brings you the buyer. Therefore, if you see a commission of 3, that will mean that most likely the commission agreed upon was 6. What you will hear a lot of is commissions at either 5, 6, or 7. The rates attached to any particular home will usually fall somewhat according to price brackets. While a 5% rate will not discourage a broker from showing a $500,000 home, it could on a $150,000 home as an example. Those are the most common rates you will see. However, if you have a very low-value property, such as a manufactured home in a park, it's not uncommon to see as much as 10%. What I find interesting is that you rarely see anything other than whole numbers. That leaves the door open to be noticeably different without jumping all the way to the next whole number level. There's nothing that says you can't pay 5.5 or 6.5 or even 6.25 for that matter. To show a real-life example of how lower commissions can have a negative effect on sellers, I grabbed a random sample of 12 listings that successfully sold in the last 6 months and 12 listings that expired without a sale. These were all between $400,000 and $500,000 and are in order as shown in the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. In other words, I didn't handpick these to prove a point. I just recorded the screen as I clicked through them one after another. I'll just show this recording now, and then I'll put them on a spreadsheet to show the results. As before, I've blurred out the details of the listings so as to protect confidential personal information. This first set are the solds, and it shows sold and then the price and then the commission down here. These next 12 are the expireds, showing the same thing up at the top and then the commission. As you can see from this chart, the average commission for the sold homes was 5.92%. For the expired homes, 5.38%. There was only one home sold in this list that was less than a 6% commission, compared to 7 in the expired homes. So only about 8% of the solds had a less than 6% commission, while 58% of the expireds were less than 6%. Now keep in mind that both price ranges and county has an effect on the actual commission rates you will see. These homes were all from King County. For some reason, commission averages on even very expensive homes in King County are near 6%. As you go south, however, they lessen. More expensive homes in Thurston County, as an example, are predominantly 5%. It's all relative. In other words, wherever you are, you could do a study like this, and in most cases, you will find there to be an effect on sales. I went ahead and did a study in Thurston County of expireds and solds between $150,000 and $300,000 and recorded the screen as I clicked through them. There's a couple things I'd like to point out on this chart showing the results of this exercise in Thurston County. First, the results in King County were for homes almost $200,000 higher in price, and yet the typical commission rates are less in Thurston County, as I had mentioned before. Less percentage and less price means that commission checks in Thurston County are a lot less than they are in King County. The other thing was that the difference in both counties between the commissions of solds versus expireds was right about 0.5%. Keep in mind that what you've just seen were just two sets of only 12 properties. Don't get hung up on the actual numbers. As I've said before, it's different in different counties and price ranges. Work with your broker to make sure you aren't out of the typical range, but aren't setting the brokerage fee unnecessarily high for the price range and location your home is in. Now that you understand how the commission is one of those elements that can have a positive or negative effect on the sale of your home, and how to go about deciding where to position it in relation to your competition, I want to talk a little bit about how the fee gets divided. On the surface, it may seem to you that the real estate company and your broker are making a lot of money. That actually is not the case, as you will see on the following pages. There are numerous entities and costs of doing business involved in dividing up the fee you are paying. These are shown on this chart. Not all of these are always part of how a particular brokerage fee is broken up, but there are at least 10 most common combinations of these. Without boring you with every scenario possible, I will just show you the best, most typical, and worst combinations we face. The percentages shown on this and the following pages are approximate and can vary. Every office has different arrangements as to how they split the commission with their brokers. In addition, each office has different expenses of running the office, and each broker has different expenses in running their business as an independent contractor. However, they are pretty close to what I have experienced after many years in the business. This first scenario would be our best scenario in terms of the money we would make. It's where your broker finds the buyer, there's no franchise fee to pay, and no referral fee to pay. Unfortunately, it just doesn't happen that often. When you put your home into the Northwest Multiple Listing Service, you are giving literally over 20,000 brokers the opportunity to sell your home. The chances of your own broker selling it is rather low. However, this is a depiction of approximately how the percentage of commission is broken down. Since it is pretty uncommon for this scenario to occur, we always hope for this to happen so as to offset the reality of the more common scenarios. The most common scenario is where a broker from a different company has the buyer. In this situation, you will see that your listing broker will net approximately 16.5% of the commission, and the company will net approximately 6.5%. The worst scenario is where the buyer comes from a different company, and both companies have to pay franchise fees and referral fees. In this case, your listing broker will end up netting approximately 8.5% of the commission, while their company may net as low as 0.5%. A scenario like this is really not worth the time it takes to deal with. However, situations similar to this are a reality in the real estate business. I hope you've been enlightened as to the real world of real estate brokers and companies. It's a difficult, largely unappreciated and thankless job which is handled by educated and skilled professionals who genuinely care about their clients, want to do the best possible for them, and who work hard for a small piece of the pie in order to pay their living expenses. The last thing I'd like to talk about comes back to the scenario where your own broker finds the buyer. In this case, sellers often think that because their broker is getting both sides of the transaction, that they should reduce their fee. That is totally backwards thinking. In that scenario, your broker has an opportunity to sell that buyer a home. It doesn't need to be your home. Why would your broker want to try to sell your home to that buyer if they know you are going to want them to reduce their fee? They would be better off selling a different home to their buyer. If anything, it makes more sense at the very beginning of the listing to tell your broker that you'll pay them an extra $500 if they find the buyer. They at least have some incentive. Otherwise, they know that usually a different broker will be selling your home, and they'll get paid their normal fee. Don't discourage your broker by asking them to earn less. It's just not fair and doesn't make sense. As you've seen, after all is said and done, they're only making a fraction of the fee anyway. I hope you now understand that just like proper pricing is important, proper positioning of the commission rate among the competition is also important. In addition, unless you are running a real estate business, it's understandable to think that we make a lot of money, but the reality is our take-home is only a small fraction of the commission.